we will start our panel talk on neocolonialism and the social struggles in Asia and in Africa. And for this, we have two special guest speakers. Let me start with the lady. We have Tinay Palabay from the Philippines, who is a human rights defender and working for Karapatan, a human rights organization in the Philippines. So I am inviting Tinay already to step up the stage. Give her a hand, everybody. And secondly, we have Mr. Seun Kuti, a musician from Nigeria who played last night with Egypt 80. Give your hands up for Seun Kuti. So, Seun, Tinay, welcome. Give yourself some water. That's good for the talk. Let us already commence with maybe a first introductory question, because I introduced you very, very quickly. And I would like to give you guys also the chance to introduce yourselves to the audience more thoroughly, if you would like. And maybe just explain, like for Tinay, I know you work for Karapatan. What does Karapatan actually do in the Philippines? And for Seun, yeah, what is your music all about? That might work also. What is the situation in your countries in terms of neocolonialism? And later we will tackle more concrete questions and maybe be able to compare the situation.
Chivalry is really dead. It's really dead. Next time I don't open the door for my girlfriend and she slaps me, I'm going to say, be progressive. My name is Seun Kuti. I'm 35 years old. I play Afrobeat music, saxophonist. I'm a father of a girl. Hoping to have more kids. I've been playing music all my life. I'm a fourth generation political activist and Pan-Africanist. Also engaged in social and community development in my country. So yeah, I mean, that's the background. Any other thing, you know, in detail, check Google.
Yeah, Google is a very important resource, no? So, good morning. I'm Christina, and I'm from the Philippines. I work with a human rights organization named Karapatan. It's a literal translation of rights, the term Karapatan. And my organization has been around for since 1995. Put up by martial law activists during the time of the former dictator Ferdinand Marcos. And like Seun, I'm a third generation activist of my family. Most of them were martial law activists during the time of Marcos. And unlike Seun, I don't play any form of music, any kind of music. But I studied art literature during college. When I started out as a youth activist, and then I moved on to in establishing the first, I think it's the first and only, currently still the only progressive women's political party in the Philippines, the Gabriela Women's Party. And well, since times are really difficult in the Philippines, I've moved on to another organization named Karapatan. Basically, we do monitoring and documentation of human rights abuses and especially this is daunting work, especially under our current president, who calls himself the Punisher, Rodrigo Duterte. So yeah, I mean, we are partners with Viva Salud in implementing several programs on human rights.
Okay, that's a good introduction. Thank you very much. Now, this panel talk is about neocolonialism, but I don't know if neocolonialism is as clear for everybody. What is our definition of it? So I would like to jump to the next question, which is for you guys, for the two of you, and in your respective countries. How does neocolonialism manifest itself? What are the forms of neocolonialism that the people are enduring, that the country is enduring, so that we have a better and more concrete idea of what that word means specifically for these two countries, or maybe also the continent, Asia, Africa, but specifically Nigeria and the Philippines.
Well, I guess neocolonialism in my country today is simply capitalism in one word, because capitalism is only a reform of slavery, of that system. It's not a change, so the excuse of enduring colonialism for the larger part of 200 years in Africa, was to make Europeans of African people, that we are uncivilized, we are savages, and these benevolent European benefactors have come to civilize us. So this was the reason for colonialism. And when this excuse was proven to be false, then they moved to reform. But nobody says neocolonialism, they say liberalism, they say capitalism, they say conservatism. They call it all these systems that govern how indigenous people can interact with the world. The term Nigeria, for example, we exist in a perpetual colonial state, all indigenous people of the world. If you are not European, you do not live, there's a high probability that you do not live in your ancestral setting. What do I mean? I mean, there was no place like Nigeria till 100 years ago, where when the British monarch decide to amalgamate the southern and northern protectorate of this area, and Lord Lugard's mistress that he brought with him, he didn't bring his wife, so he brought his mistress, and they were taking a joyful romantic cruise down the river Niger, and he said, oh, hello darling, what is bothering you so much? Oh, the queen says we have to find a name for this place. I don't know what to call this. Oh, we have to call, this is the river Niger. It's so beautiful. Let's call it Nigeria. Niger area, Nigeria. Oh, darling, that is wonderful. These people are now Nigerians. So for the past 100 years, we have been Nigerians. My great-grandfather was not a Nigerian. No African was involved in this decision. But we are now destined to bear this identity. So who is a Nigerian? When you say neocolonialism, a Nigerian is the evidence, like any other nationality in Africa, is the proof, not the evidence, the proof of neocolonialism. Meaning that I cannot relate with the world as a Yoruba man. I have to travel with a Nigerian passport, identify as a Nigerian, live under the Nigerian system. And what is the Nigerian system? What is the culture of Nigerian people? They have no culture. Our culture is tribal, as they say. It's not national. So Yoruba people, like I'm Yoruba, We have our Yoruba culture, there's the Igbo culture, there's the Hausa culture, there's the Ibibio culture, you know, so many beautiful cultures, but no Nigerian culture. So what is the Nigerian culture? It's English. See, that's why I speak English. You know, so we are fourth-class British. You know, so we speak English, use the English system of law, and even if it does not relate with our own understanding of reality, you know, we grow the crops that the English have imposed on our soil. You know, and they complain, you know, they still talk all over Africa. People, there's hunger, people cannot eat. And it is the Europeans that decided what we grow. There has not been any research to redesign the crop system in Africa. It is the same extractive crops that we have to grow. You know, we don't foray into new crops that we can use to feed ourselves or eat. It is only, you know, you hear, like, go in the news, all African countries growing record food right now. Nigeria is growing record rice, record yam, record this, record everywhere. Everybody is breaking records but people are getting more hungry. Food is getting more expensive. Why? Because it's all for export. That is the design. You know, so when people talk of neocolonialism, you know, people always want to go into some obvious political, racial, no, but even in our existence as indigenous people, my country is still 70% foreign owned. If there was a government that came today to say, oh, Nigerians deserve at least 80% of their country, like every other country, there will be war. And Europeans will justify that war. They will find the Western world will find a reason, you know. I mean, there will be a reason. You know, we know the usual way they bring their little protesters, you know. Then you try to bring law and order, like we do in America, and then there's a no-fly zone, you know. I watch protests in America every day, in France. As soon as you protest for 10 minutes, the cops come out and kick your ass. Everywhere in the world. You protest, as soon as you break one shit, the cops come, they tear gas, they spray. There's no no-fly zone in France because of that. You know? But you just do that if you are not, you know, letting them take your resources. So what is neocolonialism? Neocolonialism is the existence of all indigenous people. The fact that we still do not control our destiny, our existence, our identity, you know, that is what it is. You know, and then you complain about immigration. That's what I was trying to say on stage yesterday. Because when people talk like, you know, colonialism is over, okay, fine, but come to Nigeria, there's the French Cultural Center, the British Council, Boeiend Institute, so many. Israel have their own, you know, and all these companies do is encourage the best Africans to come to Europe. Come on, there's opportunity, come to Europe, come on. Then they use the TV, MTV, ETV, all these TV to Europeanize the rest. Show them all these British movies, you know, all the glamour of Western life, you know. You Europeanize them, Westernize them, the Arabs, you know, make people Arabic, you know, in the side of the Muslims. But then you complain when these people want to come around, you know, and if a government comes and say, oh, I ban television, this TV, I ban this TV show, I ban that TV show, I ban, oh, he's an autocrat, he doesn't want people to, So the world is crazy in terms of how they perceive indigenous people and the perception of our existence, you know. It's either the world decides, you know, I always say it's a decision thing. We as human beings have to decide what we truly want to believe in. I believe that people are always like, say, yeah, we want peace, we want unity, we want humanity to be free, and we want everybody to love each other. But when the time comes to really prove it, like I had a discussion with a, I'll give you an example of what I'm saying and I'll pass the mic real quick. I had a discussion with a French guy in Bordeaux. And he says to me, I don't believe in borders. Borders don't exist to me. This is a free world. You know? I don't care what this government... So I look at him and I say, that is a very racist thing to say. But people say it, you know, to act like, yeah, because you have your French passport, you wake up in the morning, I want to go here. Borders don't exist for you because your people drew the borders, lines in the sand, you know. So yeah, you can. But for me, borders are so real. It's as real as air. Even in Africa, the European borders of Africa stop me from moving across Africa, while people in Europe can just move around as they freely please. So borders are a reality for me. So for someone to tell me, I don't believe in borders. What? It's because, the only reason you say that is because you've never tried to apply for an American visa. You know? You go online, you do your ESTO. I'm going to America. You know? You never tried to apply for a Schengen visa. You know? You've never tried to apply for a British visa, you know, so, yeah, but, yeah, you know. So, you know, for me, people have to realize, you have to be empathetic. I feel many people see the world only from a perspective of their privilege. Even the African elites, that's why you see African people, you go to the indigenous countries, you say, oh, but no. All our elites are Western and Arabic in their mind already. So they have the privilege because whiteness is wealth too. If you have enough money, even though you are black, you can access whiteness. You know, you just have to dress. You just can't be, you know, normal. You have to show. So you have to have your big chain, a nice watch, so that when you arrive, everybody, oh yeah, that's a white guy. Come in. You know, so we have that mentality ruling in Africa too. That's why you see so much poverty and lack of development. Yes. You know, because people see things from a privileged perspective all the time. And that also is neocolonialism for me, especially in my country.
I guess culture indeed is the first mirror that you look at when you say colonialism or neocolonialism, because in the Philippines, the first indication on why we call ourselves a neocolony is the fact that our official medium of instruction is in English. Still, after more than 50 years, 50 years when the U.S. declared our so-called independence, so many high words, you know. But the fact that not only that we are fluent or we know something in English, but the fact that it's our official medium of instruction, and that the fact that many of the students in the country are still clamoring for Filipino as our official medium of instruction, as our national language. Well, what do you think of that? In a very small country, an archipelagic one, somewhere in Southeast Asia, and I'll bet many of you here don't probably know where the Philippines is in Southeast Asia, but the fact that it is being held by a power called the United States of America many years after it declared its so-called its independence. The fact that whenever some of you guys in Europe go to the Philippines, the first thing you'll see when you step out of your hotel is a big McDonald's or a 7-Eleven shop, which is as usual as, you know, a Filipino person standing in the corner. And these are just, you know, superficial manifestations on how neocolonialism exists in the Philippines. In politics, the existence of a person named Rodrigo Duterte is one big example of neocolonialism, because this guy curses on just about anything. He says, fuck you to the Americans. He says, fuck you to the EU. He says, I love Xi Jinping of China. But he takes all their money. He buys all their weapons from Israel, just recently. He gets all the funds from the US in his war on drugs. And at the same time, he says that he's a patriot. So we have a political elite in the Philippines who can say just about anything that they want. So they can win votes, they can maintain power, and they can please whoever is, some bigger power, the US or China or whoever wants to go pillage our country and our resources. We have lots of land. Like in Africa, there are lots of gold, minerals in the Philippines, but majority of the companies that come in don't really give much jobs nor resources back to the people. So the thing that the government usually says that, okay, mining companies are good because they give jobs for the people. When statistics would say that these companies would barely even add up to 0.1% in our GDP, in our gross domestic product. So where is the so-called progress? Where's the so-called progress when these corporations come in? And I think one stark reminder that we are a neo-colony is that when US President Donald Trump came to the Philippines, our president sang a very nice love song, Ikaw Lamang. Ikaw Lamang. He sang a ballad, a love song, to Trump. What? I think they were gonna kiss, but so yeah, you have this crazy mendicant government. You have an economy that can barely keep up, the well-being of its 110 million people. 10%, by the way, are outside the country. We usually joke about it, but we say that the Filipinos are in more than UN member states. Anywhere in the world, you can find a Filipino, even in a place called Malta, or in the Dominican Republic, or anywhere. Really?
I'm sure there's a Nigerian
Oh,
Oh,
no, not Nigeria.
we are there. I'm sure this place.
But many of us are what they call migrants because of our economic situations, not because we wanted to go to tour Europe or the US or wherever else. We had to go out of our countries to earn a living. And that is one big reason, one big proof that neocolonialism exists in the Philippines. Sean was right, we don't have to rattle off all the numbers that we have. Because all indications are there from as early as we open our eyes in the morning and we look at the state of things in both of our countries.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you, for giving us a good sketch on neocolonialism in terms of economical, political, and cultural ways that they manifest in your countries. Let's go to the other side. Okay, so you have this power, you have this situation. How is the struggle going on in Nigeria and in the Philippines? How do the people react to this neocolonialism? How do they organize themselves? And what is the situation now of this counter power? Who wants to go?
Well, for the past 100 years or so, there's a running form of struggle in the Philippines, and that is the armed form of struggle. Ancestors years ago have started an armed revolution, and it goes on to a newer form of armed revolution. And that thing exists. we cannot deny the existence of those forms of struggle. Both of the communist movement in the Philippines and the Moro or the Muslim liberation movements in the especially in the countrysides in Mindanao. Another form of struggle that we take is with the legal and democratic movement. That involves people like us, who may as well be considered illegal when we return to the Philippines in the next few days and we wake up and just know that martial law has been declared again by President Duterte, because he has been saying that for the past 2 years, that he will declare another round of national martial law, similar to what Marcos did more than 40 years ago. But even when the legal democratic movement is considered illegal, many of my colleagues are determined to go underground and work with whatever we have. Because when people are being killed like chickens or like ants in the drug war or in the counterinsurgency program, we won't just sit by and wait for some riding in tandem motorcycle riding gunmen to come and shoot us like flies. We will go on with what we do with human rights work as we did during the time of martial law. There are also sectors who are engaging in the form of struggle, in the arena of struggle of what is called the peace negotiations or the peace processes. Our government has a peace, is in a peace process with the National Democratic Front of the Philippines and the Moro movements. But of course, peace negotiations are peace negotiations. It can go many ways, not only 2 ways. It can go many ways. It depends on how one belligerent party has been stronger than the other party. But we also engage in what we call the arena of parliamentary struggle, meaning we engage government in its belly. We engage in parliamentary politics, in electoral politics. There are very much like here, I think, in Belgium, where progressive members of the progressive movement run for positions in government. But we do not go into that kind of arena daydreaming that we will change government overnight, because that will not ever happen. We go into government to prove that this is one big hellhole, essentially. This is one big hellhole, and this is why we need to change society. This is why we need to change the system. And probably one last arena of struggle that we are engaging in is in the court system. In the courts, where you have a judicial system that is basically skewed towards the moneyed and the powerful, but you have to use the law to make it a weapon for the oppressed and the poor. I know that is a tall order, and we have such, I can count the number of wins that we have in terms of the court battles that we go into, but it certainly is one arena of struggle. In short, we very well know how to play the piano. Meaning the piano has many keys. And the keys can only be played so beautifully as that of the piano player. As the ability of the piano player to make great music or have music that can cause a discord or some form of disturbance or some form of resistance. But these forms are all so powerful when a people's movement is there to cause the changes that needed to be done. At the base of it all is the role of the people's movement. Nothing can ever be done without the people's movement.
Well, the struggle for our ultimate liberation in Nigeria is a bit like, it's very multi-layered, not a bit, very multi-layered actually. Because there are many things that as motherland people all over the world that we have to take into consideration before we can, you know, really see the right path to our true liberation and progress, and mostly development, you know, economically, that is. If you look at Yemen right now, I mean, there's a struggle for the majority of Yemeni people to control their destiny, and they're being bombed to their kingdom come. How was the count now? Over 1 million dead in Yemen. Well, everybody's seeing right here. I mean, nobody's losing sleep. I mean, like, the world is turning. I don't think the world will turn if 1 million British people have been killed in the past year by external aggression. There will be a world war. There will be something happening. Like, you know, NATO would have armed up. You know, so the world has been desensitized to black blood, you know, and indigenous people death, you know, because we've been made to, you know, like, this is what they do, you know, these myths of, you know, so for us to really liberate ourselves in Africa, we have to take many things into consideration, knowing fully well that as long as our antagonists are doing the bidding of the world powers, they will be allowed to use any kind of force to maintain the status quo. Struggling in the third world and being an activist is not the same as being an activist in Europe, you know, or America. You know, the threat of losing your life is real, you know, is really real, you know. The threat of being locked up for whatever reason is really real. You know, and BBC or CNN is not going to talk about it every day. You know, they maybe talk about it 1 day, 2 days, you know, and then that's it. You know, everybody falls back into line. You know, they forget you in there. You know, people have bills to pay. You know, so we have to understand that we have to go past the racial barriers of man if we really want to know what the struggle that we indigenous people go through and what has to be done from this part of the world also is monumental. You have to understand, like, up till like 400 years ago, there was no mention of black man anywhere. There was no such thing as the white man. You know, this man is from Nubia, you know, he's brown skin, you know, you read the ancient texts, you know, until 300 years ago that white, you know, elites needed to create the black man from the most hideous part of their imagination, you know. Everything that they fear and despise about themselves, they began to impose on motherland people, you know. And for 300 years, this thing has built up to the point that we are living in today, where the people that rule us in Africa were the same people that used to kill us on behalf of the white man 50 years ago. You have to understand that my country, for example, is ruled today by ex-general Muhammadu Buhari. All the armies of Africa were created by colonial governments. Before they were colonial governments, they were suppressive forces. They were the black people, the African people, I don't want to call it black, the African people that used to kill other African people to help Europeans hold, they were the new elites. Because the Europeans, you know, when they talk about slavery in Africa, they talk about it as if there were 483 documented anti-slave rebellions in Africa. They talk about it in Caribbeans, and I mean, so if slavery was 400 years, that means more than one rebellion every year. Because the system, they had to create new elites that were willing to sell slaves, And now today they say, oh, Africans sold themselves into slavery, all that kind of bullshit. So, these same people, when it became colonialism, became, frontier forces, and they became military, and then when we fought for our independence, this military collaborated with their real leaders, killed people like Lumumba, all over Africa. I mean, I'm wearing a Thomas, no, this is my anti-Diop t-shirt, but Thomas Sankara, everybody murdered by these people, and they rule us till today. So struggling against these people is not like you are struggling against your fellow countryman. So, it is not only political, economic, and economical. The struggle in Africa is largely psychological. Because we are under so much propaganda, religious propaganda, political propaganda, economic propaganda, that it is difficult for someone that is truly invested and interested in elevating the people to engage. So now what am I saying? We are trying to engage in actually correctly politicizing the people, which might sound easy, saying it in Europe. Why do you have to politicize? In Africa, with the deliberate low level of education, deliberate low level of nutrition. See, poverty is a tool. People always wonder, why are Africans so corrupt? Poverty breeds corruption. Man. When they say absolute power corrupts absolutely, absolute powerlessness also corrupts absolutely. So this is the situation that we face in Africa, because many people engage in the system, coming up with some good ideas, getting the system and become the same thing that we've been trying to fight against. So why is this? I always tell people we have to see it from that perspective. Why will Obama be all black power, talking about redistribution of wealth, talking about getting into power and become one of the most aggressive, brutal presidents the world has ever seen? Well, in America, there's Black Lives Matter, who are we explaining this to? Why should you validate my existence? So they say this is because white cops are killing black men in America. But in Africa, black cops are killing us too, just like that. So in Europe and America, they say banks don't give black people money because they are white owned. You come to Africa, all the banks are black owned and we still can't get shit. So what is this attack on blackness globally and even in our own country? What justifies the term expatriate? Because of the lack of people development in our nations, even in our own soil. So what is the struggle, really? That's what I always tell people, like, what is the struggle? Are we struggling for political power? Is this what is going to change our situation? Because many progressive African men have held political power. You understand? But then they are shot with a gun. Then this brings me to Novichok in England. Suddenly, it is the fault of the manufacturer when some people get killed in England. The person that manufactures the weapon is responsible. But when guns are killing us in Africa, it's black on black violence. The manufacturer is no longer responsible. How these guns get into the hands of poor people that cannot even feed themselves, but they have all this ammunition, So we have to struggle on so many fronts. It is difficult for you, honestly, I'm saying, to articulate what the struggle is for people in Nigeria anymore. you know. So I try as much as possible, you know, to say we have to build a movement that politicizes the people. Because at least if the people are politicized enough, this was an idea from Franz Fanon that says, if people are politicized enough, then the political party will be a people's party. And if they win the government, every decision they make will have to be popular because people know. You understand? We are sitting down here today, we are discussing all this important stuff, trying to make the world a better place. But this is not the thing that is on the news. Trump is on the news tonight for sure. You know, some hate speech is on the news tonight. Because that is what is important to the system. That is what is important to the military-industrial complex. We can no longer act like there's a sectional struggle. This is what I keep saying, like, oh, what's going on? What's the struggle like in Nigeria? The benefit of European working class today was a global effort. Many African people died in the World War to create the social system that exists in Europe today. Many Filipinos died, many Japanese people died. I mean, so it is the turn of the European working class to pay back. Because whether we like it or not, your countries are the protectors of our oppressors. And as long as you pay your taxes to perpetuate this system, I cannot sit down here and discuss Nigerian struggle. What are we discussing there? You're going to go out here and pay your tax, and they're going to use that money and use your votes to drop a bomb next week. So the struggle in my country is global, I'm sorry to say. I mean, 70% of my country is owned by you guys anyway. Come and clean your house up. This is what I say. You have to... The consequences of colonialism and slavery and oppression and imperialism is real. The job of the elite of the world is to make you feel as if the consequences are not real. To make you feel that, oh, the guy that blows himself up in the middle of Paris is a crazy jihadi. Wait till you have half of your family killed in one night. And you know what, by just one bomb, you know, you never kill, you know, you never did anything wrong, you're sleeping in your house and boom, you have collateral damage. You know, that is what we are. We are the collateral damage of the capitalist system. So, the struggle of Nigeria is global. Are you going to tell your governments to free up our resources, to leave us alone? I mean, if 70% of our wealth that is held by the West, you know, and the Arabs, if you let it go, people will stop being poor. I mean, the only reason the corruption in Europe doesn't show in your life is because you own most of your country. So no matter how corrupt your elite want to be, Bill Gates got 50 billion. Bezos got 80 billion. You are still okay. There's enough for everybody. Because nobody can justify how John Bezos, who they are just exposing, his workers cannot even feed themselves, is sitting on 80 billion. Bill Gates is telling me he's worth 50 billion because he owns Microsoft, the internet. The internet belongs to everybody. The internet was paid for by public money. It was public research, publicly funded. So how one man is making this much money from something everybody paid for and you all accept it because it's not corruption? Keep telling yourself that. You know, let's keep, you know, when McDonald's sells horse meat to people and nobody goes to jail, you know, it's not corruption, it's corporate discrepancy. You know, only black people can be corrupt. You have Trump in the White House, you know, but Putin has a regime, you know. Trump has an administration, Putin has a regime. So, keep telling yourselves that. And as long as we keep playing that card and playing that game, nobody can tell me about the struggle. It won't. What can we really do? No one people. You understand? So it's because we choose to have selective amnesia, to forget that, to be where we are took global effort, and to pull people up will take global effort too. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that is the struggle in Nigeria, to see how we can make our situation so incredibly anti that maybe the world will pay attention. Because there has to be some kind of shock effect. As Nigerian people, we struggle politically. It's not on the news, so they make it seem as if people are docile. They make it seem as if African people are taking it. No, we are not. We are not, man. Trust me. But it is difficult. Because if you are trying to do something that is actually positive, there's no real support. Boko Haram can kidnap some girls, kill people, and be on the news all year. But no matter what you build in your community, no matter who you engage with, no matter the groups you are trying to put together, no matter the grassroots party you are trying to form, that doesn't qualify for year-long coverage. You see, people don't want to know that. You understand? So there's so little that we can achieve, but there's so much that we can gain. When I say achieve, because I don't want to see a world where we become white people and build a country where we, discriminate and remember and say, oh, you did this, and we want to be vengeful and punitive and, I still believe that there's hope for humanity to move forward as one. And we are at that crossroad where we will have to decide. We want to move forward as one, because it's either the working class people of the world join together in a global struggle so that indigenous people recognize that there are people in Europe and America that don't hate us and they are just like us and they go through the same thing as us and we share the same values, and we are against the elites of this world who oppress all of us. Or we enjoy our little privilege, continue to spread the narrative of the elites so that the battle will become black versus white thing. Asia versus white thing. Chinese versus, So if that is what it's going to be, if that is the destiny of humanity, we are at that crossroad. Because truly, the struggle of this world is against the elites of this world who are oppressing man and nature. The rainforest in Africa is important to the people of Europe. The glaciers of Iceland is important to the people of Africa. And we have a group of people destroying these things. What are we waiting for? What do we need? What are the examples? What struggle do we need to? Do we really need to know what is going on in Nigeria before we are interested? So that's the struggle. That's the struggle.
Thank you very much for giving some enlightenment on the struggle and how the different forms of struggle. I will already jump to my last question, which I hope you can limit the time of answering, but in a way you guys answered it a bit already. Just to give the audience also a chance afterwards, if there are questions from the audience, so that you have the chance for that also. I like it when you said about the struggle is global, because this panel talk is co-organized by INTAL, which is a North-South solidarity movement. So the oppressors, the system of neo-capitalism, capitalism or neocolonialism, it's also global. So the struggle has to be global also to be successful. And with INTAL we believe that, and this is a question important for everybody who is struggling. Also here in Belgium, here we also have elites. Here it's not neocolonialism because we are the colonizers, but it's capitalism. The normal people here are under capitalism.
It's only a reform of the same system.
That's it, it's the same system. So that's why it has to be one struggle. Now I get the point where people in Africa and Asia in general are the effect of these systems on them are much more severe for now. You know, it's very hot over there, but here it's getting hotter also. You know, so. For these people, the people who struggle here in Belgium, in Europe, what would you like to say to them, to the people here in Belgium who are also struggling and are in solidarity? Do you have a message for the audience, for INTAL, for other people and organizations here who also try to share in the struggle?
Well, it is important that we target our resources because it's limited. I realize that the resources for those that want positivity in the world is highly limited. So let's not use them for the elitist approved avenues of charity and protest and things that we know that don't bring any results. Let's use it to strengthen our organizations and reach out to other organizations in Africa, in Asia, in America, you know, that believe in our values, and we can find a way to build and be stronger. The way the elites are united all over the world under all their useless IMF, FAO, UN, they have all these millions of abbreviations, you know, where they meet, build a big group, you know, and decide stuff. So we need to decide stuff globally. You know, for me, it is important that, you know, for example, you know, we can't fall for the same things over and over again. When there was apartheid in South Africa, the people fighting against the South African government were called terrorists, you know, and, you know, the aggressors were painted as some kind of innocents, you know, that were just protecting themselves from these savages, you know. For 150 years, South Africans were trapped in this cage. Today I see boycott Israel, free. Now in the West, criticizing Israel, they say you're an anti-Semite. You know, you don't speak. You are trying to bring back the Holocaust. You know, but black people are being shot every day. Nobody is saying they are trying to bring back slavery. You know, nobody talks about the fact that 10 million Namibians were killed by the Germans in the First World War in practice for what they carried out in the Second World War. More than the amount of Jews that were killed. Nobody talks about that. We don't have a National Namibia Holocaust Day. We don't use that as an excuse not to face criticism. We can't even use it. As soon as a black man wants to say slavery, I'll shut up. So we need to fight the elitist narrative. It is the strongest tool they have. It is not a mistake that they have commercialized and privatized the news. Privatized and commercialized music, newspapers, information, radio, TV. And they continue to defund the public one. So everybody has to be raised in this false narrative. As much as possible, we have to take care of our kids. Because when they go to those schools, well, maybe for whiteness, maybe it works. But especially as black people, when our kids go to school, a different person comes back home. I have to re-educate my daughter every day. And I'm like, okay, other than your maths and English, what else were you told in class today? Just keep telling me everything. You know, lies. This is the truth. That's the truth, you know. So what's going on? So this is what we need. We need to disengage from their narrative. I believe we need to disengage from their narrative and engage with ourselves. This is what is missing. I mean, if the civil rights movement could connect with the African liberation movement, and Che Guevara and Nkrumah could be friends, and the world could be one in the 70s before there was Google and internet, and people could liberate countries. They didn't even have email. They didn't even have phones. No mobile phones. Maybe that's why they could. Because you are so bored, you just have to be engaged. Well, there's nothing else to do but plan my revolutionary tactics. So that's it. We have to disengage from the elitist system and their narrative and re-engage with what we know is real or what we believe is real, you know. And really don't deceive yourself. Many people love the system, but don't come and crowd up our space and bring up unnecessary arguments and delay us and detract us, you know. Why you are not bringing any arguments to stop the bombing in Yemen? Nobody. The elite move as one, and we also have to move as one, you know. So if you really not, don't worry, you know. Go and do your thing. All lives matter. Yay, you know. Just go and let us that believe that the world needs changing find ways to do it together collectively. That is the only advice I have for people like us in Belgium.
Many of you here probably have been working on the Philippines, providing several forms of solidarity, or to Nigeria, or to places where people's struggles exist. And for that I think we are proud to stand with you all throughout these years of struggles. But I think that this world that we are in has this, it's not only a Facebook world, but it's also a world that has gone haywire with people who think that they can make us twice the full of ourselves. Meaning they can say whatever they want to our faces. People like Trump, Putin, everyone else, Duterte, Hun Sen, the tyrants in Africa, they can say whatever they want to say in the crudest of terms and act like it's a normal thing that they can do. So it just means that our strength, our language, our common language of struggle, and a common language for against imperialism, our common language for our liberation needs to be more pronounced. It needs to have more strength. It needs to have more fuel. It needs to be more organized. Because we have such big monsters to contend with. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that, okay, we have lots of things to sort out. Because we have all sorts of ideologies. We have all sorts of alternative futures that we can think of, paths or you know, alternative frameworks that we need to think of. How can we build those kinds of commonalities? But I think that the struggle for liberation has one common language, and that common language is the language that speaks about our struggle for liberation. That we want to be free from oppression, that we want to be free as peoples, wherever we are, whether you are in the Philippines, Nigeria, or here in Europe. The struggle, that the language that says that we want to be free from this kind of exploitative structure. And when we build that kind of movement, these powerful men, these powerful structures, actually would look like ant holes. I mean, you know, you can just step at them and look at them and say, okay, you're done with. You know, I have this really, I have this great optimism on the power of people. It's not because I was born in the 90s or whatever generational stuff. I really, really, truly believe that the people, when we build our own alternatives, you know, we have a bigger and greater chance of making this world a better place. You know? When people in the Philippines build their own schools, indigenous peoples build their own schools and change minds of young children, they do not only bring about more informed, more nationalist, more liberated young children in this world. They think about, they bring about new individuals who knew nothing about oppressing, using one's privilege or one's class over the other. These are persons who only know what it means to struggle and the need to struggle to be free from oppression. And these things I saw, these things are things that I saw in the Philippines, that these things can be done from the smallest barangay up to the national level, an alternative form of government, a kind of government that is truly and really for the people. And that is the thing that we are more empowered to build. Not all these elites, not, you know, the richest billionaires of the Philippines, not the crazy rich Asians of our generation, but people who have power enough to bring enormous changes, both in the smallest communities in the Philippines and elsewhere in the world. And that, I think, my friends, is a challenge that we should all consider, that we should all bring forward. How do we struggle together in this changing world? How do we struggle and build bigger movements against imperialism, against neocolonialism? And how can we have this big slap on their faces? These people who believe that bilateralism or multilateralism, economic structures such as this can bring us all down. And I think we're going there. We're going there. Everywhere where Trump goes, I think he has been here twice, right? Everywhere he goes, he's facing these huge protests. He goes to Asia, he faces these forms of protests. So we're getting there. And solidarity entails more than just, signing on to change.org or signing on to many petitions. Those are important. But it also means that learning from the struggles of our own peoples, being there with us. You're all invited to the Philippines, for example, even though our president bans a few of you, puts them in the blacklist, like Veronique over here. And some people, they go, Pirate Duterte doesn't want any foreigner speaking on the human rights situation in the Philippines. So, but what the hell? I mean, these people can do whatever they want, right? But I think what's important here is that despite the situation, you continue to stand with us, and that is most important to us.
Okay, thank you very much. If there is somebody with a really pertinent and short question, I will allow it, but not necessary. So, it's okay if there is no question, because we are actually short on time. One question then we will allow. Yes?
Will you be running for president like in Uganda? Good question.
Well, I don't think I can really be a politician. You know, Nigerians will be scared of all my tattoos and stuff. He's the child of the devil. I'm just kidding. No, for me, I'm not really interested in political power, because holding office would mean I have to stop music. And me and my music have a special relationship, like Bush and Blair. Yeah. Very special. So but I want to work in a political party, be able to influence the policies of government and governance and things like that. I want to be very active in my community, like right now, I'm trying to build a community football team, not the same as Winnie Mandela's one. That is future plans. The only few people know about Winnie Mandela's football club. I love her. She was gangster. Yeah. So anyway, but this is a real football club, trying to pay kids to play, not for profit, but just to help them be better, find things to do, find employment and give job opportunities, to young people. So for me, that's more important. Building structures for me is more important than ruling anybody, and also the time that men are led is over. Nobody can lead people anymore. Those days are gone. Those little myths that held power, in its place have all been dismantled. And it's evident in the world today. No president can satisfy any country. Nobody can satisfy. It's done. People are going to look for new ways to govern themselves soon and new systems to run humanity and the world, where people really have a decision. Because, it used to be monarchy. From monarchy, it became politics of the aristocrats, which is what we live in now. Basically, the merchants and the aristocrats ruling the world. So the next step basically is government of the people, the real democracy, the real government of the people. Because even though this is called democracy, we know it's not government. Nobody says anything. So I think that is the next step, and for me, this is where power is going to be, in the community, in the grassroots, and things like that. Because I believe that the more humanity is also anti-war, the more armies will become obsolete, and when humanity becomes more united and we can use dialogue and we have a common interest, which we all have anyway, but just clouded by a few people's selfish interest, our common interest, and it's greater than their selfish interest. So I think things like this, all these resources, look at America, for example. Half of the budget goes for military. And nobody can. Every country in the world that can fight America in the war is an ally. Britain is an ally. France is an ally. NATO, for Christ's sake. But they still spend half of their budget on guns and planes and bombs. Like, what the fuck? That means more black and brown people are going to die that year, for sure. Obama was dropping 8 bombs a minute, for 8 years. Oof. Anyway, so that's the system, So for me, I'm really interested in building structures, not ruling men. Ruling men is not really my thing.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Before we close off here, I would just like to promote a campaign we have and to convince you all to sign it. We have a campaign going on against the Eurovision Song Festival, not against the festival itself, but against the fact that it will take place in Israel, an apartheid state. So we are doing a petition against it, that it will take place in Israel, and if that is not possible, that Belgium will not...
competition too. Do one petition against the competition, not just the country. Both.
So, I would like all of you, please sign this and let us start the struggle there. And also, so this is a campaign led by INTAL, as is this panel talk, and I would like very much to invite all of you to be members of INTAL, the North-South Solidarity movement here in Belgium, to struggle as one. It only takes 5 minutes of your time, and it only takes 10 euros a year out of your pockets. So it is very, very accessible to all. And lastly, of course, I would like to thank the audience and also Tinay Palabay, Seun Kuti. Thank you very much for doing this panel talk with all of us. And we have a souvenir for you guys, a t-shirt of INTAL Congo with, I think, Lumumba on the front. And for the rest, stick around. 12:30 we will start a Filipino cultural activity here at INTAL. We have, I hope he has arrived, we have the great Danny Fabella who will do struggle songs here with us. Janine Santos who will also use her voice to please us all. So yeah, please stick around. Thank you very much.
From someone of Gaza in de camping tent. We hebben ook een getuigenis van iemand van Gaza in het kampeertentje. Dus un témoignage de quelqu'un de Gaza dans le petit temple en face. Merci.